Sets of 5s are great, but what if sets of 1 rep or sets of 8 reps could actually be better for strength development? Hi, so I'm Alex. I'm a professional strength and conditioning coach. I've been doing that for about a decade, and I've coached athletes, well, over 160 athletes, all the way from recreational through to senior international level at this point. I've also been head coach of Outlift Powerlifting Club and of Yorkshire Barbell Club, and I've been a tutor for British Weightlifting since 2018. Right, so I think the way, I've got my laptop here, by the way, that's what I'm looking at. I tend to go off on tangents, so this keeps me somewhat focused, stops my weapons grade ADHD brain just going off all over the place. Right, so I think the way that we've been thinking about strength training is wrong. Or rather, like, not so much wrong, but it's limited. It's been too limited, okay? So what we're gonna go through today is, I'm gonna take you through exactly why I think that, through a new perspective on rep ranges for strength, and I'm hoping that by doing so, you're gonna be able to train smarter and get stronger way quicker than I did, and way quicker than a lot of other people will. So let me take you through sort of what I think, right? We're gonna go through step by step kind of what I think the issues are with like the textbook approach. And then we're gonna go through some recommendations that you can put into your own training to maybe make it a little bit more effective. So the old way, the classic way, the textbook way, if you will, right? I'm gonna call this the 5s or the favs if you're a Mark Ripperto fan, right? Guys, if anyone of you is listening from Texas and I just did that appalling 5s impression, look, I'm British. It's a bottle of water, innit? That's my accent. I can't do Texan, so don't crucify me on that. But the 5s, right? You do your 5x5s. You've got starting strength is all 5s. Strong lifts is 5s. It's a classic rep scheme for a reason. I've used like Texas methods loads. I'm still a big fan of it. I want to make like really clear that like I've used like rep schemes like 3s and 5s a lot. I still use them a lot. I still program them a lot. They still make up a real good bread and butter of my programming. There's nothing wrong with using 3s and 5s for strength, okay? Just want to make that really clear before someone jumps in the comments like, nah, 5s, you're bleh. Like, before anyone does that, just hear me out for a minute. Here's the thing though, right? Here is, nothing works forever, okay? There is a point of diminishing returns where adaptive resistance kicks in. You can do 5s for a given amount of time, but you will start to get less from them, okay? I'm gonna give you a personal anecdote and then I'm gonna sort of like move on, but I was coached by Glenn Penley for a while. If you don't know who he was the like, he was a US national team coach for a while. He was one of the most famous weightlifting coaches. He started the club Cal Strength, which you might see on YouTube, right? Super, like, actually I'm not sure if he's technically started Cal Strength. I think, did Dave Spitz start Cal Strength and then brought Glenn in to coach the athletes, and Glenn started the YouTube channel, which is what took off. I think that's actually what happened. Weightlifting historians, people that know more, please let me know in the comments, but I think that's actually what happened. I think it's Dave's club brought Glenn in. Anyway, listen, so Glenn's one of the OG weightlifting coaches. He had me run a program for a while that was very dominant in 5s. We'd do like, hit a 5 rep max and then do 5x5 at 90% of that and 4x5 at 92%, and he'd build up to a new 5 rep max over 5 weeks. And we ran this cycle for what must have been 15 or 20 weeks with no deloads. Zero deload weeks, 5 times a week, just like intense squatting, pulling, deadlifting over and over and over for back squat and front squat. And the first cycle I ran, the first sort of 5-6 week block, I improved like 7%, and then the next I improved 5%, and then the next I improved like 2%. So there was this like decreasing amount of returns, and like I think the next cycle I tried to do, I actually got injured. I think I got like some niggles and just stuff didn't feel right. What I probably should have done, a smarter approach at that point. Glenn was really old school, but if we'd have moved to maybe some 3s or just some 6s or 8s, just mixed it up a little bit, exercise variation or rep scheme variation, I would hazard a guess that my progress would have been significantly better. And I've seen that with a lot of the athletes that I coach. If you keep on doing the same thing over and over and over again, they get less from it, the injury likelihood goes up because you're overusing the muscles in the exact same way. So I think change it up a little bit. And I'm gonna propose this as a hypothesis for you, right? Say that you train for 6 weeks to get a 2 or 3% or a 5% improvement in your 5 rep max, right? What if you could have used that time and trained in 10s, sets of 10, but because it's completely new and novel to you, you could have seen a 20 or 30 or 40% improvement in your 10 rep max, which I have seen dozens of athletes do at this point, right? So this isn't hypothetical, this is something that dozens of people can do, and I've done myself. Wouldn't you argue that a 40% improvement in your 10 rep max is better than a 5% improvement in your 5 rep max, right? Like, yes, I know it's not as close to your 1 rep max, so it's technically, you're producing maybe a little bit less force maximally, but the sum total, the sum amount of your improvement is so much bigger. Wouldn't you argue that you're getting way stronger by doing that? Just a little food for thought there, just to kind of mull over. And just on the other end of that spectrum, what about singles? So I've had a lot of lifters and I've had them do 10 sets of 1, literally 10 single reps. And if they make a couple of lifts and it looks really good, they move up in weight. And if they do a couple of lifts and they miss them, or it doesn't look good or doesn't feel good, then they move down in weight. So they just do 10 single reps. This is something I use for some of my more advanced lifters, and it allows them to get a lot of like feel for their heavy loads. It allows them to practice setting up and walking out a heavy bar or squat. And it really allows them to dial in their central nervous systems at the top loads. That's not a classic strength rep scheme, right? You wouldn't see many 10 by 1 workouts programmed because it's not 5 by 5, it's not 5 by 3 or 6 by 3. You don't even see that much on a peaking program. But 10 by 1, actually, I've used this now with, goddamn, like maybe 3 dozen lifters. And I have yet to have anyone not do amazingly well with it. The amount of confidence they gain from it, the consistency they get with weights at 85 to 90% plus is phenomenal. It's not a classic strength rep scheme, but every single one of those lifters has performed really, really well with it, right? So it makes you wonder, right? If these classic rep schemes that we have, do we follow them just because they're in a textbook? Just because it's in a book that someone used at some point? But like, could the actual rep schemes that we use for strength be actually a little bit broader and maybe more effective? So yeah, I think like, yes, strength in its purest form, right, is your ability to express maximal forces, okay? So yes, a 1 rep max is the truest test of strength, but maybe even, like, I would argue that you could be training for strength with sets of 1 to 8, maybe even 1 to 10 reps, and I would argue that is all strength training. It doesn't just have to be sets of 3 to 5, right, that people would typically say you have to do. It can be far broader. And I think in some instances, different rep schemes can actually be better for strength gains, okay? So a really good example is, 5s have got really stale, like I said. Try some 8s or 10s, make way better performance difference, way better percentage differences. I think your strength is gonna go up more. If you are newer, or if you are working with like youth athletes, something like that, if you actually use sets of 8 to 10, you'll see that their strength goes up way more because they get better motor learning. They get 8 or 10 reps to practice the movement instead of 3 to 5. So they get way more technical practice, and as a result, their nervous system learns the pattern, their motor learning improves, and they get stronger because motor sequencing and motor learning is a humongous part of strength. So there's a big argument to be made that for a lot of people, higher reps will actually get them stronger. Just something to think about. And there's also an argument, as I said earlier, that lots of practicing heavy singles will actually get experienced athletes stronger than maybe just doing something like, sets of 3 to 5 reps. So that's my perspective today. I know it sounded a little crazy to start with, but I hope I've given you some reason in some arguments there. Strength training, instead of 3 to 5 reps, 1 to 10 reps. Much broader range, you can still make phenomenal strength progress. That's my perspective for today. If you like this one, or if you have any questions, or if you want to call me names, do so down in the comments. I'm more than happy to have a somewhat rational, intelligent discussion, provided that that's the discussion that goes on there. If you want a little bit more like one-to-one support, if you want to have more in-depth chats, then I have a coaching group for athletes and lifters. You can get a 1-month free trial, so you can literally try everything out for free with no commitment. It's got training programs for powerlifting, weightlifting, hypertrophy, conditioning, 2, 3, 4, 5 day per week variations all written up. You'll also find in there sports nutrition guides, recovery management guides, access to weekly live Q&As. You can submit videos to get technique feedback. You get an insane amount of value in that group. And like, if you do choose to sign up long term, it's like £75 a month or like $97, I think that roughly equates as if you're stateside, which is just preposterously cheap for the amount of value that I'm adding in there. Like to work with a coach that's been doing this at the highest level for a decade for that amount is basically something I've not really found elsewhere. So yeah, if that sounds like something that's maybe beneficial, maybe try that out. If not, yeah, just do the like, comment, share, do all that stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right? See you later.